Alright guys, welcome back. So, another Wrath video. We've covered the Feral Deep... Well, we've covered a few things when it comes to Wrath. We've already looked at things that you might have forgot, so feel free to check that video out. I'll put a link in the description below. And we've also looked at the Feral Druid and the changes that it goes through from TBT into Wrath of the Lich King. So today I want to talk about the Resto Druid. This one shouldn't take too long at all. I feel it'll be quite a short video because we're only talking about a healer. It's not gone through massive changes, but we'll have a look at the talents. We'll have a look at some of the big bonuses that you get from talents and new spells, obviously. If you aren't already subscribed to the channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It's free, and obviously like the video because it really helps out getting its reach out there to other people. And a big thank you to all you guys that are channel members. I'll put your name on the screen now. As I say, it helps massively, keeps me here pumping out content, which hopefully you want to see. And there's going to be a lot of content like this, which is Wrath of the Lich King, getting prepared for Wrath of the Lich King Classic. So let's jump in and let's look at the new abilities first. The new abilities that you just naturally gain from leveling up. So first of all, the main one really is Revive. And I say it's the main one because all Druid specs get it, obviously. But you've now got an out of combat res that you can now use. So no more can you just stand there and watch the rest of your raid get everyone rezzed up after a wipe and you just stand there like, I'm not wasting my 30-minute cooldown, because you've got no excuse now, unfortunately. Another spell you're going to get is Nourish, which heals a friendly target for 1883 to 2187. Heals for an additional 20% if you have a Rejuve, Regrowth, Life Bloom, or Wild Growth effect active on the target. And quite honestly, outside of talents, that's it. You're going to get Wild Growth from talents, which we'll have a look at what that is in a minute. But we want to go through and have a quick look at the talents that have either changed drastically. We're not going to worry too much about talents that have moved. We're going to dip a little bit into the balance tree because that's what you do when you go Resto Spec anyway, because some of the balance ones are quite useful. So we'll probably start there and then we'll look deeper into the Resto tree at what's changed. And honestly, Resto Druids in Wrath of the Lich King, not only are they really powerful, they do really benefit a raid in ways that you probably have forgot. One of them in particular, a Resto Druid boosting your raid's DPS. Do you remember where that was? Let's find out. So like I said, we'll start with a balance tree first. This is actually balanced spec at the moment, but yeah, so we'll just start here. We're not obviously bothered about reducing Wrath or Starfire spell, but Genesis, which increases the damage and healing done by your periodic spell damage and healing effects by 1%. So we can gain 5% extra healing just here. And then looking, we've got Moonglow, which reduces the mana cost of Starfire, Starfall, Wrath, but we're more interested in the Healing Touch, Nourish, Regrowth, and Rejuve. We've also got an increased critical strike chance of your Wrath, Starfire, Starfall, Nourish again, and Healing Touch, which crit is actually not too bad. You're going to want to get your haste cap, if you don't know. In Wrath of the Lich King, you're going to want 856 haste rating, which is then going to basically bring you down to a 1 second GCD instead of 1.5. Once you've achieved that, you then want to start stacking everything else, so spell power, etc. But once you've got your haste cap, then the next best thing after spell power is going to be crit. So picking up some crit from talents isn't actually as bad as you probably think. And then moving down again, we've got Nature's Grace, which all non-periodic spell crits have a 100% chance to grace you with a Blessing of Nature, increasing your spell casting speed by 20%, which is obviously very nice. But the big one in the balance tree for you healers really is increasing the duration of your Rejuve spells by 3 seconds, your Regrowth by 6 seconds, and your Life Bloom by 2 seconds. Going down any further than this in the balance tree as a healer is probably not worth it at all. But that's why I wanted to start here. Then if we look at the Resto tree, so again, I'm only really going to focus on the big changes. So taking improved Mark of the Wild now is pretty much a must for every spec Druid, because it doesn't just increase the effectiveness, it also gives you 2% of your total attributes. Picking up Master Shapeshifter, which is a new talent, which when you're in Tree of Life form, it increases your healing by 4%. This is quite a big one. Omen of Clarity now actually procs off of spells, so this is an absolute requirement for Resto Druids, just procking those clear casting heals as frequently as possible. There's not much changed other than maybe some wording and small percentage increases or decreases any further down here. It all remains pretty much exactly the same until we get down to Empower Touch. Now obviously also affects your Nourish spell, which you're going to learn at level 80, as does Nature's Bounty, so it increases the critical effect chance of your Regrowth and Nourish, where before it was obviously only Regrowth because we never had Nourish. Now when we move down here, this is when we're going to start to get some really cool changes or additions. Empowered Rejuve is the same, but we've now got Living Seed, which when you critically heal on your target with Swift Mend, Regrowth, Nourish, or Healing Touch, you have a 33% chance, this is obviously going to go up to 100% with 3 points, of placing a living seed on the target for 30% of the amount healed. The living seed will bloom when the target is next attacked, and it lasts 15 seconds. So this is particularly nice for tank healing, of course. We still get Tree of Life, which, just reading it because it has changed slightly, reduces the mana cost of your healing over time spells by 20% and grants the ability to shapeshift into a Tree of Life. While in form, you increase healing received by 6% for all party and raid members within 100 yards, and you can only cast restoration spells in addition to Innovate, Barkskin, Nature's Grasp, and Thorns. So when we pull up Tree of Life in TBC, you can see that before it was 25% of your total spirit, whereas now it's actually just a flat 6%, but we can also improve it, which by improving it, it increases your armor contribution from items, and it increases your healing spell power by 5% of your spirit while in Tree of Life form, and you can put 3 points into it. Now, this is the one I was talking about at the start, so Revitalize. Your Rejuve and Wild Growth spells have a 5% chance to restore 8 energy, 4 rage, 1% mana, or 16 runic power per tick. Now, when you add points into this, it doesn't increase the rage, energy, etc. It just increases the chance for it to happen up to 15%. So, as a Resto Druid, you're going to be blanket hotting because we've not just got Rejuve or Life Bloom to throw around. We're going to get Wild Growth as well, which is an AoE hot. So the chance of you giving these people extra rage, energy, runic power, whatever, is high because of the amount of hots you've got out there. So actually, having a Resto Druid in the group and you having hots on you when there's raid healing going around is also increasing damage for the raid, which is pretty huge, and actually, if I'm completely honest, something I forgot about. Then we've got Improved Barkskin, which is basically a PvP talent, to be honest. Grants 80% additional armor contribution from cloth and leather items while in travel form or while not shapeshifted. It increases the damage reduction granted by your Barkskin spell by 5% and reduces the chance your reduces the chance your Barkskin is dispelled by 35%. So you can put 2 points into it. So again, definitely a PvP spell. And then we've got Gift of the Earth Mother, increasing your total spell haste by 2%, and it reduces the base cooldown of your Life Bloom spell by 2%. Again, this is huge. And then finally, Wild Growth, healing up to 5 friendly party or raid members within 15 yards of the target for 686 to 693 over 7 seconds. The amount healed is applied quickly at first and then slows down as Wild Growth reaches its full duration. So having a 5-person hot, we only last 7 seconds, but still a 5-person hot, which, if we have a look at the glyphs, you can actually make it even better than that. So as a druid, we get lots of glyph options, but I'll just focus on the ones that are actually any good for you as a Resto Druid. So Glyph of Wild Growth just lets your Wild Growth hit an additional target, which when you think about it is huge. It's increasing its healing potential by 20%. Then you get Glyph of Swift Mend, where your Swift Mend ability no longer consumes a Rejuve or Regrowth effect from the target, which again is really, really nice because it means you haven't got to reapply that hot after you've Swift Mended someone. Then we've got Glyph of Nourish, which Nourish heals an additional 6% for each of your heal over time effects present on the target. Great for tank healing or even just spot healing the raid during, heavy AoE damage going on, and you've already put all your hots out on everyone and you've got a spare GCD for a Nourish. Glyph of Rejuve, which while your rejuvenation targets are below 50% health, you'll heal them for an additional 50% health. Glyph of Innovate. So Innovate now grants the caster 45% of their base mana pool over 10 seconds, in addition to the normal effect of Innovate. Now, this is one where you probably won't need it, because if you don't know already, Resto Druids really shouldn't be having mana issues in Wrath of the Lich King. They're probably one of the most efficient healers in the game, if not the most efficient healer in the game. So the Innovate is nice, looks nice on paper, but you probably won't need it. And then for the minor glyphs, you're going to take Unburden Rebirth, but so is all druids, because it just makes you don't need reagents, so you can save a bit of bag space. Glyph of the Wild is another option just to reduce the cost of your Mark of the Wild and Gift of the Wild by 50%. And Glyph of Thorns is nice just so when you cast Thorns on yourself, you haven't got to worry about refreshing it as often. Now, every druid's dream is going to be, once you get to phase 2 and Ulduar's out, which I'm assuming it's going to be a phase 2 raid, you're going to want to get Valanir. And Valanir is an absolutely epic weapon. Well, it's not epic, it's legendary. In fact, I'll put it on the screen now. And every healer in the game is going to want this, even though it's better for some, than others, but still, as a Resto Druid, it's still going to be a weapon that you're going to be just dreaming of, and it really does synergize well with all of your other abilities. And now, quite honestly, outside of talking about and showing you the new talents that you're going to be getting, talking about the new abilities that you're going to gain, there's not that much to talk about when it comes to Resto Druids. We've even spoke a bit about what stats you're going to need. If you want to know sort of rotationally what you're going to be doing, you're going to be using Life Bloom a lot on clear casts, and it's always best to use Life Bloom on a clear cast. It heals the target for 375 over 9 seconds. When Life Bloom completes its duration or is dispelled, the target instantly heals themselves for 776 and the Druid regains half the cost of the spell. So actually, when you've got clear casted now from Omen of Clarity, which is passive again, by the way, you don't ever need to worry about buffing it. Long as you take the talent, it's on you all the time. If you get a clear cast and then you use a Life Bloom, not only are you getting that Life Bloom for free, you're going to get 50% of its mana cost of what it should have cost back as mana. And that's why if you play really, really well as a Resto Druid, you will not have mana issues. Because most people are probably like, oh, I've got a clear cast, let's quickly try and use a really expensive regrowth or something, you know, just for no reason, which is absolutely wrong. It's the wrong way to play. You want to be using Life Bloom because you're going to be wanting to get that mana back, because unless there's someone who really needs that big regrowth or nourishing or healing touch or whatever, you know, anything that you think's going to be more beneficial, then maybe do it. But, you know, if everything's stabilized and you can waste those clear casting procs, you're going to want to be using it on Life Bloom. So I should have mentioned really when we were talking about what abilities have changed, Life Bloom is now a really good source of getting mana back. Also, when it comes to other things that have changed, you can now CC. So Entangling Roots and Nature's Grasp are both now usable indoors. So in raids, in instances, you can not only heal, but you can help CC as well, which is absolutely massive. Another one worth noting as well is Innovate has halved its cooldown as well. It's only 3 minutes now rather than 6 minutes. And if you're a healer that likes to go on the offensive and likes to do some damage, Hurricane has had its cooldown completely removed. It's no longer a 1 minute cooldown, it's spammable. But we're going to talk about that a lot more in the balance video that's going to come. So if you want to see that, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. You can also rebirth a lot more often, which is pretty much where I'm going to leave the changes to the actual abilities, which it's only a 10-minute cooldown now. So that really is the Resto Druid in a nutshell. Like I say, when it comes to actual sort of rotation or how you're going to play, you're going to be Wild Growthing on cooldown. If you're doing AoE healing, you know, blanket raid healing, you're going to be using Wild Growth on cooldown, throwing rejuves around, maybe keeping Life Bloom up on the tank or using it on Omen of Clarity procs. And for single target healing, not a lot's changed. You know, you're going to be keeping Rejuve and Life Bloom on the tank, still trying to refresh it with clear casting procs as and when you can, and then you'll be using Nourish or Regrowth. In fact, I mean, Regrowth is extremely strong, and I've seen many players actually using Regrowth over Nourish. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but it is an option. So, as I say, that's where I'm going to leave it. I hope you enjoyed finding out what you've got in store for you as a Resto Druid in Wrath of the Lich King. If you want to see more, make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.